Hello, and thank you for listening to the Hilariously Unemployed podcast. I'm your host, Dana Duckworth, also known as the Big Speaker. My goal with this podcast is ultimately to get someone hired. I know all too well the impacts of unemployment and layoffs. My guest and I hope to provide insight and resources that will support someone in gaining their next opportunity. You can support the Hilariously Unemployed podcast and those who are impacted by unemployment by giving this podcast a 5-star review, sharing it with someone who's hiring, or someone who's hilariously unemployed. I hope that you enjoy the show and find some laughter throughout. Hello, and welcome back to the Hilariously Unemployed podcast. I'm your host and still favorite opportunity seeker, the Big Speaker. What's up, y'all? I'm super excited to bring this episode direct to platforms because I forgot to make sure that it was recording to my cloud on LinkedIn Live Audio. So here we are, and I'm super excited for this, app exclusive podcast streaming platform exclusive. That's what we're gonna call it. We make we make lemon drops out of lemons over here. So I'm so excited to welcome my guest to chat with you all today. Her name is Kim Anthony. But before I do that, let's go on a big speaker rant. This week, how am I really? I don't know. I've been so tired. I've been exhausted. I've been working really, really hard on a lot of things, but I've been trying to make sure that I take time for rest because I traveled so much last month that I was like, when you don't have to travel, you should be in your bed. So I've been making sure that I actually take the time to physically rest my body outside of my extended hours in the gym and also mentally prepare myself for June. As we get into June, I'm going to be traveling again. I'm so excited to be heading to OKC. I've never been to Oklahoma, but I have an executive coaching client that I'll be working with out there. And then from there, I'll be headed to Philly for another week. If you all saw my LinkedIn, you know that I spent some time in Philly recently at the Diversitech conference. Well, I'm headed back to Apartmentalize, which is the National Apartment Association's largest conference that they host. Myself and all my good girlfriends are going to be there. And just for your pleasure, if you are in the Philly area or you're going to be joining Apartmentalize and attending a conference, we are actually throwing a mixer, which is going to be amazing. It's called the Allies Mixer. It'll be on the 18th from 8 to 11 at Reserve Lounge. I'll be sure to share that RSVP link on my LinkedIn page and also in the show notes in case you want to pull up on your girl. All right, enough about me. Let's get into our guest. Kim, I am so excited to share your story because I think that it is one that it really warmed my heart to hear how you turned your layoff into an opportunity to really explore some of the passions that you had previously and just find happiness and joy in everyday things. So I would like to introduce you to my audience, who I affectionately call the Hilaries. Kim, say what's up to the Hilaries.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have you. Your energy is so vibrant and so great. So I am so excited for our chat today. And first things first, you know how I do. How long have you been hilariously unemployed? In your case, maybe not so long.
Yeah. It was definitely longer than I wanted it to be. So I was laid off for a year. I got laid off in March of 2023, and they have a full-time, just permanent benefit giving position as of March 2024.
Wow. Congrats, my girl. You back in the employed state as of March. A lot of people, a lot of guests, a lot of the audience is still, on that grind working to fulfill their destiny and find their forever, well, their for now employment to make sure that they're able to fulfill their dreams of whatever it is that they want to do in the career landscape long time. But you have a very unique story. So you've gone through a couple of transitions in your career. I like to start with talking about your experience transitioning from higher education to tech and the journey through the multiple layoffs. But let's get right into the higher education because, give me somebody that wants to deal with that level of drama.
Yeah. So yeah, I worked. I have my master's degree in college counseling and student affairs, and I was one of those people who like wanted to stay in college forever. And I was like, the best way to do that is to just go work at a college. It's going to be exactly the same. And so I was an academic advisor at a university back in South Carolina. And I worked there for 4 years and I really enjoyed it. I love building relationships with students and like helping them through their transition throughout all 4 years because like each year brings you something new. And I was also working there during the height of the pandemic in 2020, and that really burned me out. There was a lot of like politics being thrown at the university I was working at. A lot of very upset and angry students and parents, expecting a lot from the advisors when like we didn't really know what was going on either. And I think like a lot of people during this time, I was doing a lot of like soul searching of like, well, what do I really want out of my life? And basically everything I wanted would require more money than education was going to provide. Uh, so, um, so I started looking at, where are my transferable skills? Like, where could I really land? And so I was really looking at recruiting type positions, and I heard all these good things about the tech industry, and I was like, great, let me look there, see if there's anything I can find. And I looked for about a year and I wasn't able to like find anything. No one really was taking a chance on me. And then I submitted an application to a company called Knock, met the recruiter Tabitha, who you know and who's been on this podcast before.
Yeah. Let's talk about that connection. So you have a connection to one of my former guests. I love when the stories intertwine. It's like a mashup episode. So if you all listen, you know that Tabitha was on the show. She talks about her layoff. She's a mother. She just recently had a baby. She was laid off, unfortunately. We talked about we shared a connection of our parents, having parents that were addicted to substances. And it really helped me have a breakthrough during that episode, so I'm forever grateful to her. I see why people stay so connected to her, like yourself. So tell me a little bit more about that connection to Tabitha.
Yeah, so I mean, that was really my first introduction to her was the first recruiting screen that I had for this job. And I mean, I just was like obsessed with her after that. I was like, I have to get this job because like she works there and I want to work with her. And so she's really been on my side and on my team throughout meeting her. She ended up, they ended up hiring me, which was like so amazing. And I was able to make this really big move from South Carolina to Seattle and like totally restart my life. Like so much of like the wonderful things that I have are because of her. And even like throughout my layoff and throughout her layoff, she's still been there for me. We've been able to really help each other.
Yeah, she's amazing, man. She is one of those people that sticks to you. Once they're in your circle, you are stuck to them. Okay, so I want to go back to you saying you were in higher ed at a university during the peak of the pandemic. And as someone who has a background in property management, one of the properties that I managed during my career was one that was very near to a university. So we had so many students that would choose us for their housing. And let me just tell you, it is like having a bunch of children, and the parents are not there during the beginning of the process. So they're not there for the move in, that we're talking about money, all of these things, and this lease, this contractual agreement that these kids are signing, right? But as soon as something goes wrong, you got those parents on your line. So tell me a little bit about how that went down, working in a pandemic with the parents and the students.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it I think was understandable because this was a situation that none of us had been in before. So everyone was just sort of reacting to the unfamiliar, including the advisors. And I don't think that people really understood that we didn't really know what was going on either because, like, we would have, like, students weren't able to do internships that summer. And the internships were like a requirement to their degree. And so we would get a lot of angry parents calling us, defending their children, asking, well, what's the next step? What does this mean for graduation? The move to online classes was not very smooth. So we had a lot of upset parents and students about the quality of teaching that they were getting through online learning. And So it was just a lot was being thrown at the advisors, and none of the parents or students really gave us any grace in this learning curve that we were all sort of thrown into.
That is rough. And then I also think about the financial part of it. They're probably like, "Where's our money?" And you're an advisor, like, "I don't have anything to do with the money," like, literally.
Yeah. I do math, so, like, don't look at me for that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Well, I'm glad you made it through that and into the tech space. So let's talk about your time at that company. This is when your first kind of layoff happened, and you said you moved all the way to the West Coast to
I
not
did.
you moved to the West Coast to not have a job, or no?
I moved and had a job. That was it. My dad. I needed my dad to feel good about it. So I was like, I have a job. Don't worry. And so yeah, I moved here for the recruiting coordinator position that I had at Knock, and loved it. Loved every second of the company, of the people there. Like totally drank the Kool Aid of like startup life,
Mhm.
which I don't think I'll do again. But it was fun while it lasted, and then that company ended up getting acquired, and then a few months after that, the recruiting and HR team, original Snog, ended up.
Hey, the word acquisition. Hey, we're gonna do a hilariously unemployed bingo. And if you got laid off post acquisition, go ahead and fill in your scorecard because acquisition, man, as many times as I've heard it, I've heard other people say it, it comes with such drastic change. And I know the companies want to reassure you and want you to continue to be drinking the Kool-Aid, as you said, of the organization, but acquisition means change, large scale change. Whether that means you're going to continue to work your role or take on way more responsibilities, less responsibilities, you're going to be shifted to another department, or you're going to be shifted out of the door, which in most cases, if the organization that's acquiring yours already has a full staff of people who do exactly what you do, they're going to be shifting you out the door. Sorry to be the bearer of that bad news. So when these large mergers and acquisitions happen, please take care of yourself and your mental because it is rough. I went through one with a very, very large company that took over the smaller company that I was working for, and they kept me on, but it was not in a nice way. I mean, I was not trained, I was not coached, I was not supported. It really made the playground for me to want to make my own exit. So I say that to say, take care of yourself and always be applying, okay? You never know.
No, literally the second that they said the word acquisition, I was like, okay, like this, I need to find somewhere else. Because, like, exactly, I was like, they're gonna already have their HR recruiting team. Like, there's not really gonna be anything for me, and they didn't even have recruiting coordinators. So I was like, they're either gonna really fully transition my role into something that I don't even know what it's gonna be, or they're gonna like.
Mhm. So did you stay until you got laid off or did you make your exit before that?
I stayed until I got laid off. I was looking for another position, but I wasn't gonna quit. I was gonna put that on them. I was like, if I'm not gonna be here, this is gonna be because of you, not because of me.
Correct. Get that severance and that extended health care, whatever package they are offering, and continue to do your job search if you can. Now, if you get a great job before then, go ahead and leave. But if you don't, ride the wave. Ride the wave. You deserve the compensation at the end of the day. So this layoff happens, and what is your space? Like, what is your feeling? How are you taking care of yourself at that time?
So I was sort of in the state of like, well, because before the acquisition, I had just gotten this really good promotion that I was so excited about. So I was still kind of riding high on that a little bit, and I was just like, I am so great at my job. I'm so good. I'm gonna find something so quick. Like, I don't even need to take care of myself because I'm gonna find something and they're gonna take care of me and it's gonna be just like and it's gonna be great. And I don't think I quite realized how the tech space at that time was really struggling. And so I was delusional for a little bit.
Mhm.
Uh, and And then eventually I was like, okay, this is a little harder than I thought it was going to be. And so I was like, well, what can I do with my time? In addition to applying for jobs and networking and stuff, I was like, well, what do I enjoy? Like, what's fun to me? And I was like, well, I used to really want to be an actor when I was younger. Why don't I see if that's still something that I enjoy? And so I started taking acting class and was like, I don't have to like it anymore. And if I don't, totally cool, like whatever. But I ended up doing it and just like loving it and to have really taken that on as like a passion to help have something outside of work so that what happened at Knock where I was like, fully focused on work and like fully committed to this one place that could lay off at any moment. Now I have something outside of that that fulfills me.
Yeah, it's lovely to be able to expand your passions because once you lose that one thing, if everything is all centered around that, it really shakes you. I talk a lot about how I completely lost my identity outside of a role because I was so identified with that brand and that role and what I did for that organization. So you really have to find yourself again if you don't have another lane that you're already passionate about. So kudos to you about becoming an actor, actress. Now, you definitely do give Disney princess vibes. So tell me a little bit about your acting passion, what you've been doing, and any projects we've seen you on or can hope to see you on. Because, now that I know you, once you blow, I'm going to be telling everybody, oh, that's my girl. I know her very well. I have it documented. Here, right. Listen to
Yeah.
this.
Girl, use my image, use my likeness. You got it.
You heard it here, people. So when y'all see her on my promo, she said, I could.
Well, thank you. That's very nice. But yeah, so I've just been really doing a lot of like short films here in the Seattle area, just to kind of like get my feet wet again. I still have a ton of learning to do as far as like that industry goes. But I was like last summer, I was in a few short films that went to festivals. This summer, I have a few of those lined up. This weekend, I'm performing in at a local like theater festival for like a day, like one time only kind of thing, which I'm really excited about. So I don't know if I've been in anything that anyone not in Seattle has seen, but one day
Listen, from regional to worldwide, okay? If we believe it, we can achieve it.
I, I'm just gonna say delusional and just be like,
Hey, listen, is it delusional if you're working towards it and it someday happens, or it just feel good? It feels good to be, delusional about things because like you might be delusional today, but you might be a star tomorrow.
oh,
So during your time of transition, you also decided to turn to some different work, which a lot of people, we have a lot of pride, especially when we have these corporate titles and we work inside of these organizations. We don't consider taking on roles that are not corporate per se, but you found joy in not a hopeless place, a green place. A green and delicious place. Tell me about your untraditional work that you did until you found this next role.
yeah. Well, so I ended up working at a restaurant due to getting a position with a previous boss and not being a fit. So I did find something eventually over the summer, ended up not being something that I wanted to continue. And so I was like, well, my unemployment's almost up. I need like income coming in. Like, what can I go do? I'm just gonna go work at a restaurant. Like until I find something else. I need to get out of the house more, meet more people. You just like never know what's gonna happen. And that the restaurant was like the best job I've ever had. Like I loved it so much.
Yes, that's amazing. So you said that you took on another job. That was not a fit. I got to get into that. But I still want to talk about this restaurant story because you told me like you were like, I was serving up salads and I was so happy serving up salads. I mean, what was it like to go from being in a 9 to 5, more structured environment where you're tasked to do like this one main thing, and then you go into a diner dash situation where you are like executing on a very high level to make sure people are happy, and people are often unhappy when their food is not happy. So, what was that like?
Yeah, it was definitely an adjustment, especially going from like sitting all day to on my feet. Like my body was broken at the end of each shift. I was like popping Advil all the time. But the actual work itself was like a lot of fun. And I really ended up getting a lot of confidence from it that I wasn't expecting. Because, people have like a negative connotation of people who work in like the service industries. And, I think a lot of people would see that as like, well, I was like moving backwards. And I may have felt that a little bit at the beginning, but as soon as I started working and like saw how hard everyone worked and got to know the people there, I was like, you guys are so much fun. We get to listen to music all day. We get to just like make these salads and like talk to the customers. Like I just like had so much fun with it. And I was better at it than I thought I was going to be. I think like I was really worried about um being able to like manage the hustle and bustle of working in a restaurant, but like after I worked there for 2 months and they ended up asking me to be like a lead associate, and I was like blown away because like the last time I worked at a restaurant, I was in high school and I was not lead material. So I'm just, I got a lot of confidence from that experience of like, okay, maybe like I can do things that are hard and that are unexpected.
Yeah, I love what you said that some people feel like, oh, you might be taking a step back. One thing that happens to you when you do go through this space of transition with employment, you lose that ego. And it makes you better because things that you think like, oh, I'm not going to be doing that. I'm not going to be doing that. Like, yes, you are going to be doing that. It is okay to do that. The hardest I've ever worked is when I worked at Popeyes when I was 16. Okay. That was very hard labor. That was very hard labor for me. It is extremely hard to do. And you gain this skill set. So you're used to sitting down, having your time, your calendar, your thing. Like if you're working in a restaurant space, you're not in control of much. You are managing situations, but you are not in control of them. You are trying to find solutions and make everyone happy really, really quickly because you have 30 minutes of their time, maybe on a lunch break, an hour of their time, and you are there to make an impact so that they feel good about their meal. They have a good experience because we know customer service is everything. And any customer service experience that you gain, you carry it into each and every role that you have thereafter. So, kudos to you for getting in there and excelling and becoming that lead, even though you weren't lead material back then. You are definitely in the lead now.
Yeah.
So let's fast forward to your current role. How did you land it?
Through Tabitha, she just like keeps coming back in. I was yeah, I was working and I had made it after working at the restaurant. I was like, I really love going to the office, and I was just like, I would love to find something where I can go in at least hybrid. Like, I don't want to work remote. I need people, and so expressed that to her. And she was like, well, actually, like I have someone that I used to work with who's hiring an in person all the time position that I think you'd be great for. Like, do you want me to connect you? And I was like, oh my God, how amazing. Yes. And so she connected us and we had a few interviews and I ended up getting the job and I love it. It's great.
Oh, I'm so happy for you. So, what is the role that you are doing now?
Yeah. I am the recruiting and payroll assistant at a parking services company.
So, payroll sounds like you've expanded your skill set.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Yeah. I'm learning a ton about payroll and HR because we do like a little bit of that in our office. And so it's been really fun because I get to, like show my knowledge in recruiting, but I'm also like learning so much that it can only help me grow. And it's also crazy because the most of our employees that we have are like out in the field, non-exempt, like hourly employees, and I think that my experience working at the restaurant as a non-exempt hourly, like part-time employee has significantly helped me with navigating like working with those people and like how to communicate with them better and you know things that they might want to see from policies if we ever, get the opportunity to change anything. Like, totally, never would have thought that it would have helped me in that way. You just like never know what experience is going to help.
Yeah, man. Every experience is a lesson, you know. You are learning something regardless of if it feels like at that time. Because I've taken some tough lessons that have kicked my butt. And I'm like, what is this for? But then I realized that I learned something through the process of that. If you had any advice to give to people who are going through the challenge of being laid off, having a hard time finding employment, or not being happy with where they are currently employed, what would that advice be?
I would definitely say like follow your instincts. If like where you're working really makes you feel sick to your stomach, like and just follow that and listen to it. And do what you can to find something else. Like use your network. I mean, we all know now each other. We all know each other, and so if you ever
Mhm.
need anything, please reach out to me and I'll try to connect you with anyone. Like, um, let it, obviously if you currently have a job, you can't like, tell everyone that you're looking, but like tell those that you can and stay top of mind for people as much as you can too, because unfortunately, like people get sucked into their own daily lives and they may forget that you're looking. But if you can, remind people and or just get coffees with people, like, just sort of remind them that you are there and that you are looking and that you have these skills that can help a company somewhere.
I love that. Build community and connection. Stay connected to people, stay intentional about it so that you stay top of mind for them. I love that, Kim. Now, looking back on your journey, what is like a key lesson that has stuck with you and you will continue to kind of live by?
Oh my gosh. That's a great question. I mean, I kind of just started like following my instincts and like my gut because, like I mentioned before, I was working at a place that I didn't love, and I maybe did like feel a little sick going into work, and I ended up leaving it because I just like took the chance of like there has to be something else. Like I would rather go work at a restaurant and make some
Yeah.
salad
Hmm.
feeling, and so you really have to like listen to that. And like when I would do the interviews with companies and I would be like I just like don't think this is gonna be a good fit. And like maybe you can't pinpoint why exactly, but you just have to listen to yourself and like know that like that is there for a reason. And you're gonna find what it is you're looking for. It just might take a little longer and like not to make decisions out of fear. I think that's like a huge takeaway. Um, because I've had jobs where it's like they've been miserable and they've sucked and I've stuck it out.
Hmm.
Um, but I just didn't wanna do that anymore, and I felt like this was the opportunity to, like, really live and just make decisions based on, like, what I wanna do and not fear.
Yeah, take control of your journey. Listen to your gut, listen to your intuition. And if it doesn't make sense or feel good to you, then maybe it's not the best space for you. I want to thank you so much for sharing that with myself and the audience. Before we wrap up, I'd like for you to share where everybody can find you, if they need you, if they want to connect, if they can see you on anything on TV, or shout out your LinkedIn, your socials, what have you.
Yeah, so my name is Kim Anthony, so I you just search me on LinkedIn under Kim Anthony, and again, if there's anyone that you see I'm connected with, like, and you wanna chat with them, I will reach out and I'll do as much as I can. I wanna help anyone find a job because I know how miserable that can be. And then for the acting stuff, I have a Instagram where I post a lot of those updates.
Yeah, don't be shy about that. Tell us that Instagram.
And I recently changed it, so it's Kim acts a fool. Uh,
I love a pun. Kim acts a fool. Come on, Kim.
so that's where you can find me for all those updates, and otherwise, like LinkedIn, if you're more like professional about things.
You are just such a joy. I have smiled and laughed so hard during my time with you. I cannot begin to thank you enough. And thank Tabitha for making this connection happen. She is a true connector. of people. I want to thank my audience for listening to another episode and joining me for another week here on the Hilariously Unemployed. Keep up with me everywhere always because I'm always on the move. Speak Up Dana is the brand and the socials. Also follow Hilariously Unemployed. Give your girl 5 stars. Lord knows I need them. Be sure to leave the show a review and share it with anybody who it can impact. I really appreciate you all, hilarious. Thank you for rolling and rocking with me. It's been your girl, Big Speaker. Bye.